Alrighty, go right ahead whenever you are ready, sir.
All right, so this research project is titled "The Future Impacts of Technologies in Supermarkets." Obviously, it's by me, Alexander Dixon. That's who I am. And today I will be sharing with all of you my research and what I've been working on this past year. So starting off, I first would like to talk about the purpose of the research. So kind of like my inspiration for conducting the research, how I've gone about the process, and the overall purpose of my research consists of investigating this increasing use of innovative technologies within supermarkets. Initially, in our current world, we see technologies everywhere, whether it be in supermarkets, fast food places, even in our household, we have various different types of electronics. And that kind of guided me to choosing a specific industry to conduct my research on, seeing how it's impacting not only the industry, but also people as well. As I just said, how it's kind of impacting that general population. How do we look at these technologies are affecting people, and how are they affecting their feelings towards it, their thoughts towards it, and even how they interact with these technologies as well. And I'm also looking towards the future of these technologies. Obviously, over the past few decades and even more recent years, technologies have been basically rapidly evolving and changing, becoming more complex, advanced, and even more innovative. And when we look at how fast they're changing faster than humans can even keep up. And when we look at this, it's really important to kind of see how that's going to go for the future, even looking from 10, 20, 50 years from now, even how that might play out. And that brings me to the introduction of my research, as I've looked to the specific current time, so analyzing modern day. These technologies have continued to advance at alarming rates, as I said, even faster than humans can keep up. And when you really take that into consideration, it's really interesting to see how far it's come from the history of the first technologies, and seeing how they've continued to advance, how they've become better, how humans have even helped to make better technologies over time. And originally, I was looking at maybe how it affects fast food, but with limitations, I realized how important it was to actually look at the supermarket industry. And even I myself, I work at Publix, and a big corporation for a supermarket. And I noticed how much technology we use in an everyday store basis, and how many different devices we even utilize to do normal store day operations. And looking at this, I really thought about how these complex technologies are impacting supermarkets in general, and seeing the industry of it, especially as more supermarkets continue to implement these various technologies. Whether it be in like Walmart, Target, various different supermarkets, you see the self-checkouts growing, you see these different technologies being utilized throughout different supermarkets. And it's got a lot of people in society wondering about the benefits and the downside of these technologies. Seeing like what problems they're causing, what are the benefits of them, stuff like that. And a lot of people are looking to the future in terms of that, saying like, hey, what might we need to change in order to do better for the future? How is this going to impact the future? What's it going to mean for us in the years to come? And seeing that obviously brings up why the major issue of technology matters in modern day. Currently, a lot of supermarkets have actually suffered losses from in-store theft as a result of certain technologies, and a big one includes self-checkout. Especially as more supermarkets continue to implement these technologies in self-checkouts, it's resulting in more people stealing items and not actually paying for their groceries and items from the store. And even looking as these technologies become more developed, they are susceptible to making errors, and they can become too complex for humans to even understand and use, especially if they become that far advanced into the future. And the biggest debate obviously going on right now is whether or not technologies such as like robots are replacing humans. And a lot of people are speculating, hey, this is really bad because it's taking over human jobs. And even in a research article from Sharma, they describe how frontline staff continues to be an important very important for overall store evaluation. So, such as in the industry, people are evaluating certain stores. That frontline staff is important for evaluating the store, how the customers are doing, and even customer satisfaction and service. And when we look at these consequences, supermarkets are still using these technologies for maintaining efficiency and everyday operations. So even with all the various downsides and negative attributes of technologies, these supermarkets are still choosing to use them just because of how efficient and productive they can be for their store itself. Now, when we go on to before I actually conducted my research, I had some initial assumptions and hypotheses from what I already knew about the research. And this kind of includes how I definitely thought that these technologies in supermarkets are having various impacts on the industry, both positive and negative. Going into this research, I knew that they were impacting the industry. I knew it was going to deal something with it. I just didn't know what. So the specifics of it, I didn't really know yet. I obviously did know that there were these complex technological advantages and disadvantages were still being explored, and they are still being explored even to this day as we continue to learn and grow with different technologies. And then obviously looking to the future of how these technologies are going to continue to advance. I definitely do know looking in the future that they are going to become more complex. They're going to become more innovative, stuff like that. And it's really demonstrating those different changes and the effects that the technology is having on the supermarket industry and humans. So before I also conducted research, I decided to explore the current body of research of what was already out there. I figured since technology and even relating it to supermarkets is a really big topic, I definitely thought for my research that I could narrow it down a little bit, but kind of look to what available research there is on this so I can kind of get a grasp of what I'm dealing with. And I found a lot of different common connections between these research articles, especially noting how different studies relate to various technologies within supermarkets, whether it be like a specific thing that helps with supply chain management or just self-checkouts in general. Basically, those different individual technologies on how they're working in different supermarkets. And then as well as a lot of different common themes between how workers, managers, and customers are using the technology. So what do they think about them? How are they using them in their everyday lives? And how are they adapting to using the more complex versions of these innovative technologies? And then the last kind of thing that I kind of found common in the current body of research relates to how these reports analyze the effectiveness as well as certain benefits and downsides to technologies. So this may include how effective technologies are in customer service, how effective are they in getting customers through the store, what current issues do they pose, and what other benefits may they serve for the individual supermarkets. So some key examples of this that I found the most interesting includes how 2021 article from Gurley mentions how supermarket managers should be alert to new trends for opportunities to streamline processes and lower costs. This demonstrates a key benefit of the current technologies as many supermarket managers are becoming aware of new trends, opportunities, and to overall lower those costs and basically make their processes within the store better, more beneficial for the workers and for the store itself. And also looking to, from Dr. Harley Mutisia, focuses on their research on determining the extent to which technologies are applied as a technique to gain competitive advantage. Obviously, lots of people have numerous stores near them. We have different stores competing even against each other, seeing in like terms of like sales, which store may be more convenient for people, what do they like better, kind of that kind of overall aspect of it. And a lot of people may think like, hey, technologies may serve as that technique to gain that advantage over different stores. And then there's other research such as that by Thomas Frankos in 2022 that kind of relates to how customers have already adopted to self-checkout, though at varying different levels. So that kind of explores how customers are maybe dealing with self-checkout, even though some of them have adopted to it, just some of them may be more comfortable with using it, some of them may know how to use it more than others, that type of stuff. And obviously this current research, there's a lot out there right now, but there's definitely that major gap in the existing research that I attempted to address. And I really thought this was interesting because when you look at, when you're looking into the future, a lot of people still speculate certain things and they might be really unsure about what is to come for the future. So basically my research goes in depth at analyzing these specific components that are directly affected by technologies in supermarkets. So this is also relating to how these effects are affecting supermarkets and the industry itself, further relating to the very specific impacts and how individual technologies may be affecting people. And by utilizing the current information that's available within the scholarly world, I was able to apply this knowledge further in order to indicate the future of these technologies, what is to come in the future, and how is it going to go about impacting humans and the industry. So as far as my research method, I definitely spent a long time kind of thinking about this, but I chose to utilize a singular case study that employs mixed methods research. Now, mixed methods research is really important because it allows for the collection of qualitative and quantitative data. So this kind of helped me to collect a large amount of data that could help me ultimately to better generalize results and even better correlate certain things between numerical data and then also specific opinions. And also this research method of conducting a singular case study would allow me to examine the general population of those who shop at different supermarkets. And that's really good, especially choosing a research method that helps with that, as it allowed me to kind of go more about conducting my research in a more easier way. And I was able to definitely do it without any too hard issues utilizing the method. And this is also really important when looking at like personal opinions and numerical data, as using mixed methods research definitely can help with this and provide that ultimate data to see, especially pertaining to what I was looking to gather. Going on to my procedure, this is kind of referring to how I went about the research. So I ultimately had a different plan than this. I was gonna kind of I was looking to do a little bit more, but as I realized some things didn't work out, I decided to create an online survey using Microsoft Forms in order to gather responses. And this was really important because it allowed me to construct certain multiple choice and free response questions in order to gather that qualitative and quantitative data, as well as gather some demographic information about the participants. And this is really important because my online survey consisted of a total of 9 questions. This was kind of distributed evenly, as I had 3 free response questions, 3 multiple choice, and then 3 other questions relating to the respondent information, which included the demographics. And when I was conducting my research, I chose to gather a random sample of the general population in the local area. So I didn't want to. I definitely knew it would be a little hard, kind of getting a larger sample, especially from like different locations. So I chose to do it in the local area, and I went for a total of 40 participants chosen. So I thought that was kind of a median number in between, not too big, not too small, and I was definitely able to analyze results off of that sample size. So with my method chosen, I definitely realized that there was going to be a lot of limitations to it, especially realizing as some of my research did not work out. And the biggest thing was with using mixed methods research, it's going to be a lot of data that you're collecting, especially as you have qualitative and quantitative data, and you're going to have to correlate that at the end. And I definitely thought that there was some difficulty gathering sufficient information and data, especially analyzing like some people might be not as descriptive as others, or some people might not respond as I was hoping. And especially relating to the response bias, as some people might not entirely respond as accurate and as correct as I would have thought. And a big thing that I was looking to at the start is I was actually hoping to conduct some research by using individual corporations of the stores to gather information and some statistics from each store. And unfortunately, a major limit, I'd say the biggest limitation of my methodology would be that proprietary information cannot be disclosed from certain stores. And this is really important, seeing it from like Publix, from Walmart, even from Target. Certain stores cannot do that, as it's against their corporate policy. And it was even against their policy as well to go into their store and physically set up a stand and like hand out surveys, or tell people to go out and complete my research survey. And in that case, that's when I decided to, hey, the best choice would be to conduct a Microsoft a survey through Microsoft Forms. And the biggest thing as well includes how it may be hard to ensure generalizable results from this chosen sample. I did end up having a total of 40 participants, but the generalizability of that sample may lack that true generalizability, as you're looking to, it's only a local sample, so it's not maybe representing all the people of Florida or even all the people of the United States. And it was randomly chosen, so that does help a little bit, but in total, it definitely cannot be generalized to the entire nation, let alone the entire world. All right, excuse me for a minute while I get a drink. Okay, So after conducting my research, I found lots of qualitative and quantitative results. Beginning with the overall qualitative results relates to how, in response to question one, a lot of the participants mentioned how these technologies do promote faster checkout and increased efficiency. This was a common theme among a lot of the participants. I would say majority, maybe like 30 out of 40 of them. Obviously, for each question, there was a few stragglers who may have not answered correctly, may have said they don't know. Obviously, those types of answers happen in surveys. And then when we look to question two is really interesting because a lot of people indicated the specific dangers of technology. And common themes across this include theft, lack of human interaction, certain personal and private information being leaked, as well as technological errors, and even the big one of loss of jobs as technologies continue to take over. And then I thought question three was interesting because the similar benefits and drawbacks are demonstrated of these innovative technologies in supermarkets, and kind of looking to, again, seeing these common themes across the different opinions from the respondents relates to how people definitely agree with the increasing use of robots and automation in the future, as well as further complexities of these innovative technologies as they continue to advance. So looking at the demographic information, majority of the female respondents did mention how technologies helped people get through the store faster. This was kind of a broad and a slightly vague interpretation of the themes that were correlated of these different opinionated responses. And I also noticed that a lot of the males had more complex answers, which may have included like how it's directly helping like the back stock, like helping stocking in the back or helping supply chain management. Very more specific and complex answers related to the technological benefits. And when you're looking at the dangers and future impacts of technologies, it was relatively similar as both male and female respondents did address common themes. Again, looking at that similarity between the gender ratios there. And then I thought it was the most interesting seeing how majority of the participants found technologies in supermarkets to be helpful in some way, but they also found them to become dangerous as they continue to advance. And again, this was there wasn't really too much difference between males and females again here. A lot of them definitely stated about this, stated some form of impact. And they were, some of them went further in depth than others, but they were all kind of analyzing how it's going to be helpful in some way, but then also hurtful in another way. And as I mentioned, these respondent options varied, opinions varied in length, depth, and perspective. And this is really important, seeing how some people were more descriptive than others, and they can be correlated based on these key ideas. And looking to the quantitative results, the data I gathered was basically about split even for gender, as I got 22 female responses and 18 male responses. So slightly more females than males, but relatively 50-50, which is good for that, for definitely having those reliable and generalizable results. And I found it interesting how the age ranges really played out. This played a major factor in the further analysis, as 13% of the respondents were under 20 years old, 8% were between 21 and 35, 20% were between 36 and 45, 33% were between 46 and 55, and then 28% were 55 years or older. And I also had the respondents rank the supermarkets that they shop at from most frequently to least frequently. And majority put Publix first, while slightly behind that, 30% put other. And then the lower percentages put Walmart and Target. So kind of analyzing that, Publix has grown. Obviously, the local population, Publix is headquartered here, so that definitely makes sense in terms of the rankings for the supermarkets. And then looking at the majority answers for the percentages of the multiple choice questions, 55% answered fairly successful for question 4, which addressed the benefits of supermarkets, or that they are fairly successful in benefiting the supermarkets. 60%, however, answered neutral for question 5, which related to the dangers of technology. So this could indicate further analysis, as a lot of people may be unsure about the dangers. And then finally, all respondents said neutral or yes for future impacts in question 6, which was really significant to the results, as 100% of the responses for the options indicated how everyone knew that it's going to impact, either stay neutral or impact the future in some way. So moving on to the further analysis of this qualitative and quantitative data, it led me to thinking how it can be generalized that most people are aware of technologies in supermarkets. So they're aware of these technologies, they're aware that they're growing, they're aware that they are rapidly changing. But some people may still be unsure of their various impacts leading into the future. And key interpretation is that all men and women may agree that these technologies will have some future impact. Obviously, this was only conducted on a local sample, so that's only a subtle interpretation, but that can definitely be interpreted based on the findings. And another key important analysis of the findings includes how majority of the middle ranged ages majority of the responses were from middle ranged ages, which may be from your like gap of like 35 to even 65 years old. And that's kind of demonstrating that bell-shaped curve, which reflect those different responses from the younger generation, the super old generation, and then that middle ground. And when you're looking to also the rankings kind of reflect their store preferences based on maybe like maybe on their income or specific preference. Obviously, some of the stores are more high scale than others, so that type of finding can also be analyzed. And it's really important seeing that the research can help to acknowledge certain benefits, drawbacks, and the future effects of technologies when you're looking at the varying complexities. So these analysis of the findings can definitely help to see, hey, what do some people think about the benefits? What do some people think directly about the drawbacks? And what do people think about the future effects, even applying them to certain aspects of these technologies? So looking at the overall research, how it could have been, the major implications I definitely ran into was how it was conducted in a local area. So this is low generalizability and representation of the overall research conducted, which obviously is a major issue when trying to generalize it to the rest of the world or even a larger scale. And the mixed method, another type of research method could have been utilized, as mixed methods research may have been insufficient, lacking reliability, especially looking at the specific answers and how much data was actually collected. And obviously, as well, the research does lack those differences in ethnicities and cultures, as it does not address the differences between those. And then looking at the certain ethical guidelines and limitations, there definitely was some issues with that relating to the implications of the overall research, as it went against certain policies and with corporations and other stuff like that, which limited the research overall. So applying these further implications to what could be done for further research is really important when you look at how this could be expanded, especially as technology continues to advance. And this really goes super far and wide, as different studies could be conducted in different ways. Some key examples of this include how future studies could utilize applicable and more generalizable samples, especially if they conducted it on, say, a whole nation or even an entire state, a more generalizable and representative sample size. And then also looking how major trends and impacts of these individual technologies can be investigated. So rather than looking at technologies as a whole, maybe people can conduct future research on specific technologies, such as like maybe a technological app that the supermarket uses, or certain service robots, or even self-checkout. And looking further onto the research, it can also look further in depth on specific benefits and downsides of these supermarket technologies. So that could maybe be honing in on the specific benefits and looking at, hey, what are these benefits, or looking at the various downsides and noticing that. And even going further outside of just supermarkets, research could also be conducted on different industries. So this could be like conducted on fast food, maybe retail, other clothing shops, stuff like that. And it could really be applied, seeing how technology is not only affecting the supermarkets, but also these different industries that are present around the world. And that brings me to my conclusion of the basic findings of what I have concluded from my research. And this definitely includes how mixed methods research allowed for my research question to be investigated and answered. And that was the biggest thing, as I was able to collect both qualitative and quantitative data in order to answer my research question. And I got exactly the answers I was looking for to generalize results and even make conclusions based off of that. And based on these results, it kind of can be concluded that majority of people do believe that technologies are having various benefits and drawbacks in supermarkets. A lot of people know that. Looking at the specifics, people definitely know it's having some form of impact. And even looking further into the future, connection that these respondents agree about future impacts of these technologies is also apparent. Various customers agree that there is going to be some form of impact in the future. It might not be known yet, but going into the future, it's going to be really important seeing that. And then obviously it's very significant in the field of technology and innovation as technologies continue to advance, develop, and become more innovative. And then there's my references, and that's all I have to share.
Alrighty, thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
All right. Ms. Kazor, would you like to use this opportunity to ask Alex one of the questions from whichever group you'd like?
All right. So let me ask you this. If you could revisit your research process, what would you do differently and why?
So if I could revisit my research process, I would definitely think about probably changing about how I went about kind of dealing with the whole corporate situation, as I spent a lot of time figuring out like how I was going to conduct the research and what I was going to actually do. I kind of wish I'd chosen to do an online survey sooner, knowing that proprietary information cannot be disclosed. If I'd done that, I definitely think I would have saved a lot of time and maybe even been able to collect more responses or even add more questions and further develop my research questions in the actual forum from the Microsoft Forum survey. And I definitely think that it kind of limited my time, as I spent a lot of time figuring out exactly how I was going to do the research, even thinking about going into certain stores on certain days and times, gathering all those responses in person just to find out, hey, like I'm physically not allowed to do that. It's against their policy to go in and do that. So I definitely think if I could go back and change that, that would be the one major thing that I would change.
Alrighty. Mr. Lovett, would you like to choose one from one of the two other groups?
Sure. How did the limitations of your method or data influence your new understanding?
So the limitations of my research were actually really important to kind of making results and seeing what kind of conclusions I can come off of. A lot of the limitations refer to like maybe how it wasn't as specific as I was hoping it to be, or how it didn't go in depth at analyzing specific things, or even looking at just the sample overall, how it was only gathered from 40 participants from a local sample. And these limitations further demonstrated my knowledge and understanding of the overall research, as it helped me to understand like, hey, I already realized that I can conclude this, this, and this based off of what I found, especially relating to the future impacts of technologies. And it's making me see how, if those limitations weren't in play, I could have even gone further into investigating certain things with larger populations, or even certain gathering information specifically from each store. And those limitations really helped to kind of play out with what I concluded from my research, as well as my overall understanding of it, as it allowed me to kind of see where I'm at as a researcher, and even be able to figure out like, hey, this is what I'm able to get based on what research I can do in the specific time frame, money constraints, stuff like that, when even looking to it. And it's really important kind of seeing that, because of how I was able to determine specific results and analyze my findings just based off of what I conducted, even with those limitations in play.
Alrighty. So how would you say that the choices that you made when you were designing, or even when you were implementing your research method, impact your research process as it actually occurred?
So I definitely went about with mixed methods research. I was thinking about like multiple case studies, one case study, and then I came to the conclusion that a single case study would be best. And then even further adapting that to mixed methods, because I ultimately had a mindset of going into this and trying to collect a lot of data, because I figured getting qualitative data would leave out the quantitative data section that might actually be useful, and vice versa with that if I only collected quantitative data. So I was kind of aligned with mixed methods research from the start. And then as I went about forming my Microsoft Form survey, that's when I realized like, hey, qualitative and quantitative data can be both collected if I implement certain types of questions. And that's what I ended up doing to ultimately gather research. And that really played a big part on my overall findings, as it kind of helped me to gather more data, information, and findings of what I was looking to research, and further helped me to draw certain conclusions that maybe I would not have been able to if I used a different research method.
Now, thinking about your research process from start to finish, what do you think was the most important research skill that you developed throughout this process, and how do you think you might use that skill again in the future?
So I think the most important skill in researching is kind of being able to deal with certain things not going the way you plan it to go. And this is really important, seeing how limitations are a big factor in doing research, especially noting certain limitations in samples and even implications in the research itself. And seeing that, biggest advice for going forward would definitely be to not let certain implications get to your research or bog your research down and make you not want to continue with it, because those might just be roadblocks in the way of your research. And noting how much research you can actually conduct still with those implications and limitations in play is definitely a big part of going all the way through with the research. And I found that to be the most important part of my research, even going through the limitations with the method, the sample, and even other things such as like what happened when I was physically gathering data and research. That was kind of the biggest thing I found to be sentimental to helping me kind of continue with my research and figure out how I'm going to go about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.